Welcome to Unbelievable Top 10, where we delve into the incredible, the peculiar, and the downright bizarre. Today we're embarking on an extraordinary journey into the world of law and order. But this isn't your average court drama. Unbelievable as it may sound, we're about to uncover some of the most absurd punishments ever handed out for relatively mundane crimes. From a hot dog heist that ended in felony charges to a public humiliation involving a donkey and even a hair-cutting punishment that left everyone in shock. Stay tuned as we journey through time and explore these 10 absurd punishments for mundane crimes. Let's start our journey in Indiana, where a hot dog led to felony theft charges. A tale as unusual as it is comical, this story revolves around a man named Ricky Joe Moore. His crime? Stealing a hot dog. Yes, you heard that right, a hot dog. Now, Indiana is famed for its love of motorsports and basketball, but evidently, they take their hot dogs just as seriously. When Ricky was caught on camera committing this culinary crime, it wasn't taken lightly. Due to his previous offenses, what might seem like a minor misdemeanor to you and me escalated into felony theft charges for poor Ricky. The absurdity of this punishment is truly mind-boggling. We're talking about a hot dog here, folks. Not a diamond necklace from a high-end jewelry store, not a priceless piece of art from a museum, but a simple everyday hot dog. Yet this hot dog heist landed Ricky in a world of legal trouble, proving that in the world of law and order, even the most mundane crimes can lead to the most extraordinary consequences. Remember, folks, in Indiana, a hot dog can lead to a whole lot of trouble. Moving on to Ohio, where a nativity scene vandalism led to a unique form of public humiliation. Picture this: two mischievous teenagers, a peaceful nativity scene, and a spark of rebellious intent. The result? A nativity scene left in disarray and a community in shock. But the story doesn't end there. Enter Judge Michael Cicconetti, a man known for his unconventional rulings. In response to the act of vandalism, he didn't opt for a simple fine or community service. No, Judge Cicconetti decided that a more fitting punishment was in order. He sentenced the two teenagers to lead a donkey through the streets of their hometown. Yes, you heard it right. A walk of shame with a donkey in tow, a symbolic reminder of their thoughtless actions. The spectacle served as both a punishment for the culprits and a reminder to the community about the consequences of disrespecting public property. An absurd punishment? Perhaps, but one that certainly made an impact. Next time you consider a prank, remember the donkey walk of shame. Still in Ohio, a woman selling fake IDs received a rather festive punishment. This is not your typical tale of crime and punishment. In this instance, a woman found herself on the wrong side of the law for selling counterfeit identification cards. But her sentence was far from ordinary. Instead of a standard jail term, the judge decided to add a dash of holiday spirit to her punishment. The woman was ordered to spend 3 days in jail each year for 5 years. But here's the twist. These 3 days were not just any random days. They were specifically set to fall over the Christmas period. That's right, instead of celebrating with family and friends, she was to spend the festive season behind bars. It's a story that makes you wonder about the intent behind the sentence. Was it a form of added humiliation, a way to make the punishment more poignant? Or perhaps it was a reminder of the gravity of her actions, set against the backdrop of a time of joy and goodwill. Regardless of the reasoning, it's safe to say this woman's Christmas experience was far from conventional. A unique way to spend the holidays, wouldn't you agree? In Utah, a bad haircut led to an even worse punishment. Picture this. 2 young girls decide to play hairdresser, and the result? A very unhappy 3-year-old with a less than stellar new hairstyle. You might think this would lead to a stern talking to, or perhaps being grounded. But the punishment these girls faced was far from ordinary. Instead of a traditional reprimand, these mischievous hairdressers were dealt an eye for an eye type of justice. Yes, you heard it right. In an unusual twist of events, the girls had their hair cut off as a punishment, mirroring the very action that had landed them in hot water. This bizarre sentence was handed down with the hope that it would teach the girls a lesson about respecting others and the consequences of their actions. It's safe to say that this was a haircut they'll never forget. So next time you think about picking up the scissors, remember this punishment. A moment of mischief might just lead to a hairstyle you hadn't planned on. Now, isn't that a hairy situation? In Florida, a homeless man faced a shocking charge for charging his phone. This case takes us to the sunny streets of the Sunshine State, where our protagonist, a man without a home but not without a phone, found himself in a peculiar predicament. He was arrested for using a public outlet to charge his device. Yes, you heard that right. The crime? tapping into a public power source. The apparent offense was as mundane as they come, yet it led to a surprising and, some might argue, absurd arrest. This case serves as a jarring reminder of how everyday actions can sometimes lead to unexpected consequences. The man only sought to charge his phone, a simple act most of us take for granted. But in his case, it led to an encounter with law enforcement that he surely didn't anticipate. Fortunately, the case was eventually thrown out, as it was determined that using a public outlet to charge a phone was not, in fact, a crime. Remember, not all outlets are created equal. In New York, a daring jump led to a surprising charge. In a case that highlighted the blurred lines between adventure and crime, a group of base jumpers found themselves facing burglary charges. No, they didn't steal anything. Their crime was an unauthorized entry into one of the world's most iconic buildings, the One World Trade Center. These thrill-seekers, in their pursuit of adrenaline, decided to take a leap off the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. It was an audacious act, no doubt, but one that landed them in hot water with the law. The base jumpers were captured on camera, their parachutes lighting up the night sky as they descended onto the streets of the city that never sleeps. But their landing spot wasn't the only thing waiting for them on the ground. The long arm of the law was ready to clamp down, and the base jumpers were charged with burglary, a rather peculiar punishment for a crime that didn't involve theft, but rather the unlawful entry into a building. Next time you think about taking a leap, remember these jumpers. In Germany, an elderly woman found a creative way to make amends. Now, this is a truly unusual case. Picture this, an elderly woman caught in the act of slashing car tires. Yes, you heard it right, slashing car tires. It's not the typical image that comes to mind when you think of a lawbreaker, is it? But don't let her age and frail appearance fool you. She was as guilty as they come. But here's the twist. When it came time to face the music, she didn't just sit back and accept her punishment. No, she decided to take a more creative approach. She offered to knit sweaters as a form of restitution. Can you imagine that? A hand-knit sweater in exchange for every tire she slashed. It's an odd form of justice, but in a strange way, it brings a human touch to the whole situation. So next time you hear about a crime, don't just think about the punishment. Think about the restitution. Because as this story proves, restitution can take many forms. Our final tale takes us back to 1995, where love led to an unusual sentence. A man was ordered by a judge to marry his girlfriend after he was found guilty of assaulting her. Now, imagine standing in front of the judge, expecting a fine or maybe even some jail time, and instead you're told to tie the knot. Talk about an unexpected twist. It's like a strange, twisted plot of a romantic movie where the villain is forced to become the hero. But don't get us wrong, this isn't a love story, it's a tale of an absurd punishment for a crime. The judge's idea was perhaps to push the man towards responsibility and commitment, but it left many scratching their heads. Later, the judge claimed that he never issued such an order, adding another layer of mystery to this peculiar case. In the end, it's safe to say that love can indeed be a battlefield. As we've seen, the world of crime and punishment can be quite absurd. From the felonious hot dog heist in Indiana, where a man faced felony theft charges for stealing a hot dog, to the nativity scene vandals in Ohio, whose sentence involved leading a donkey through the streets in a display of public humiliation. Who could forget the woman in Ohio who was sentenced to spend 3 days in jail each year for 5 Christmases for selling fake IDs? Or the case in Utah, where 2 girls were ordered to perform community service and have their own hair cut off as punishment for cutting a 3-year-old girl's hair? Then there was the homeless man in Florida who was arrested for using a public outlet to charge his phone. The case was eventually thrown out, but not before it highlighted the absurdity of certain laws. And let's not overlook the base jumpers who illegally entered One World Trade Center and were charged with burglary. In Germany, an elderly woman who slashed car tires offered to knit sweaters as a form of restitution. While back in the States in 1995, a man was ordered to marry his girlfriend after assaulting her. The judge later claimed he never issued the order, but the absurdity of the situation remains. These stories serve as a reminder that justice can sometimes take an unexpected turn. They teach us that the law can be as peculiar as it is serious, and that each case is as unique as the individuals involved. If you enjoyed our journey through these unbelievable punishments, don't forget to subscribe to Unbelievable Top 10. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and as always, stay unbelievable.